Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on this Earth Prime crossover comic series that's been going on for about 2 months now so far. So we are 2/3 of the way through this Earth Prime crossover comic series for the Arrowverse, which of course this video will be going over the events of the 4th issue out of the 6, this being Stargirl's turn. Now, Legend of Tomorrow was issue number 3, and I didn't get around to making a video on that when it came out, as I was just swamped with some personal stuff. But I will quickly recap the ending of that issue and sort of where it leads into this 4th issue, before of course going over the events of this Stargirl issue. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below your various thoughts, opinions. If you read the issue, what do you think of it as a whole? Let me know all your thoughts down there. And of course, if you want to show your support and, if you enjoyed the video and all that, why not drop a like on the video to show your support and do all that. So just quickly to recap the end of the Legends of Tomorrow issue, which was obviously the issue before, issue number 3. So this is the cliffhanger that is going to tie into like the culmination of this series. And what the Legends comic does at the end is that we have the original Legends group that we saw in season 1. So this is Sarah Lance, Mick Rory, Ray Palmer, Jax, and of course the Hawks, Hawkman and Hawkgirl. But it's not in like 2022 or even like 2032, but in 2049. And this is the current versions, in that year. So they're older versions of these characters. And they are actually abducted through like a poof of green smoke or energy. Now, Wally West was also there. So he wasn't like an original Legends member back in season 1, but he was in the Legends at one point. And he's also there at the bar, with these Legends. But he is actually alerted to something on his phone and runs off before the other Legends do disappear. But on the screens in the background, we actually did see Impulse and XS, in 2049, which does suggest that the older version of Wally will be in the Flash issue that is centered around Bart and Nora, which is actually the following issue, issue number 5, after this Stargirl one. Now, the Legends disappearing went against what we had seen in the previous 2 issues, where we had villains taken away by Magog, those 2 villains being Clayface and the evil Superman from season 1 of Superman and Lois, with Magog even like narrating the origin of the evil Superman in that comic as well. So that was a surprise to see, but does the Stargirl issue do anything interesting like that as well? Well, let's go through that issue right now. So the comic actually starts with the Whitmore-Dugan family on a road trip vacation around the United States. So this is still the summertime, with the other characters on the show still in Blue Valley doing their thing. So we see Rick, we see Beth, we see Yolanda, we see Cindy, we see Jakeem, we see all of them, with Courtney and Mike still in contact with their friends back in Blue Valley, whether it's through a text message or through the old postcard. But Stargirl isn't on break, as the hero. Crime is being stopped alongside their, holiday activities. But we then also see Zeke from the junkyard, and he is actually working in Pat's shop and keeping it running while Pat, is out of town. And he is confronted by this mysterious man who is looking for Pat and, wants to deal with Pat Dugan personally, doesn't want to leave a message, actually wants to talk to Pat face to face. But back on vacation, Mike and Barbara actually stay behind at the campsite as Pat and Courtney go for a hike around this national park. And of course, Courtney does bring the cosmic staff along with her, and it's apparently for walking reasons or walking assistance purposes only. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly why. And though they do get an early scare from a troop of Boy Scouts, they are then encountered by the same mystery man that Zeke was encountered by in the pit stop. Now, Pat at first has no idea who this is. What are you doing here? Why are we randomly meeting in the woods? Though this mystery man is sure that Pat knows who he actually is, and with some suggestive wording, Pat does realize that this is the Needle, who in the comics was an enemy of the Star-Spangled Kid, who of course on Stargirl goes on to become, Starman. Now, the Needle does bring up that the years have been much kinder to Pat in regards to looks than they were on himself, and this is when Pat brings up the time vortex, which leads Courtney to really question Pat's age. Now, we know that Pat has been around for a long time, and it makes you wonder whether we will jump into that in season 3 of Stargirl, because as I said, this is still in the summertime, so this is set in between season 2 and season 3, as they do actually reference the events involving Eclipso from season 2. So Pat's like, trying to move on quickly from the topic and saying like, hey, don't mention this to your mother about, his age and everything like that. So it's like put on the back burner. So maybe we get, maybe they pick it back up in season 3, or maybe there's a storyline that revolves around it specifically. Of course, we know Starman is in season 3, and it seems like he's going to be a series regular. So maybe that's, jumped into about, how they could have existed 80 years ago or whatever it is, but still look like they're late 30s or in their 40s or whatever it is. But though the character of the Needle was giving off some very suspicious vibes, as if he was like seeking revenge on Pat and wanted to kill him, apparently he wants to simply thank Pat. With us jumping to the past to see how his life played out until this point, which includes coming across Pat, the Star Spangled Kid, and the various groups that they were a part of before he was actually locked up in prison for many, many years. The first group being a bunch of Golden Age DC heroes, which are this big panel, and we see Green Lantern, like the Alan Scott version, Black Condor, Blue Beetle, Sparky, Guardian, Liberty Bell, the Flash, the Jay Garrick Flash, Sandman, Sandy, who is otherwise known as the Golden Boy, Human Bomb, Cherry Bomb, Dynamite, Hawk Girl, and TNT. And of course, we also do see these 7 Soldiers of Victory, with them pointing fun at the fact that there are actually 8 members, and that the name of the 7 Soldiers of Victory was always a problem due to the amount of members they had. Now, the Needle originally just had a gun that shot needles, but he actually changed himself and gained the ability to shoot needles from his body rather than the gun itself. But as I said, the Needle eventually went to jail for many, many years, and over those many, many years, he learned to accept that it was his fault that he was in prison, and that everything that had led to this moment was because of him. The blame was on him, which allowed self-improvement within himself, which then leads to him being able to lead a normal life when he was released from prison and not go back to a life of villainy, which includes meeting a woman called Melanie, who he goes on to marry. But unfortunately, she actually passed away the week before the Needle went looking for Pat in order to thank him. Now, this is all capped off when that troop of Boy Scouts from earlier is actually approached and encountered by a bear who's protecting its own cubs, which not only springs Pat and Courtney into hero mode, but also allows the Needle to use his powers for good and also be a hero for once as well. Now, as the Needle leaves to move on with the rest of his life, he makes sure that Pat knows that he should be proud of himself. And not, I guess to put it simply, not always be the sidekick if you want to put it. But after he leaves Pat and Courtney, he's approached by Magog through a portal, who was looking to recruit the Needle like we had seen with, Clayface and the evil Superman in earlier issues. And he is promising that he can restore the Needle's youth and evolve his powers even more. And this is actually when we see a possible future with Magog, the Needle, and Clayface taking on a bunch of heroes from Earth Prime, which included Hawkman, Hawkgirl, both versions of the Atom, so Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi, Supergirl, Martian Manhunter, Batwoman, Mia Queen's Green Arrow, XS, Impulse, and Black Lightning. I think that was all of them. And there's just a lot of chaos going on around them, a lot of ruin. So yeah, a lot of stuff would have gone down in that possible future. And I guess it's a taste of what we will see in the final issue of this crossover series. And it does look at first like the Needle is going to accept that offer, but he eventually turns it down and just moves on with his life. However, the Needle had actually shot some of his projectiles at Magog, which was the backup plan for Magog, as he can now use those needles to replicate the Needle's powers and pretty much make a clone. But as Magog is leaving after gaining, this needle and that he can use to make a clone, he says that he is not only done with this world and its villains, but also its heroes. Now, this is when it actually shows Courtney on the Cosmic Star flying above Pat, and I wasn't 100% sure if that means no Stargirl in that final crossover issue, where I guess we would get something similar to what was seen in that possible future with Magog and the other villains taking on a bunch of our heroes. Because it is sort of hard to tell, because I don't know if it's like, I don't want to look at them anymore, or, those heroes need to be gone. Like, I'm done with them. They need to be gone. Like, I think that's going to be a wait and see. We, of course, have one more issue before that final crossover issue, as I said before, and that is, of course, the Flash issue, which will revolve around Bart and Nora, or Impulse and XS. That was teased in the Legends issue, which as we also said earlier, could also involve an older Wally West due to what happened at the end of that issue. So I'm intrigued to see what they do and what they set up at the end of that Flash issue. Obviously, we still have about 2 weeks, or just under 2 weeks, until that Flash issue comes out, and then just under a month until that final, big crossover one comes out as well. But I was hoping that Stargirl would potentially be in there. But also there was the discussion by a lot of people that if Stargirl is ever going to cross over with these other heroes, would you do it for the first time in this comic? And I think the answer to that is no. I don't think you would do it in that comic if that's going to be the first time you cross it over. So maybe it's a good thing that isn't happening, but maybe they could do like a bit of a tease right at the end of that final issue. That's up for debate, and that's for us to wait and find out, but maybe that's the way they go about it. But yeah, overall, this is probably the most simple of the issues. I think it was much more personal. There was like no fighting or anything like that, which pretty much all the other ones had. Like, in the Superman and Lois one, that had a personal story, but then it also had like a bit of an action story as well. Where this Stargirl thing, which is just one story, all the previous issues had like multiple stories within them. This one was just its own simple one focused story, which I thought was pretty interesting. So even though it had the most pages dedicated to one story, it was also extremely personal as well, which I really liked. And it was cool just to see some, history and more heroes that we hadn't seen. Like that page we went over where there was like, 12, like I think it was like 15 heroes actually, from the Golden Age. That was cool to see all of them because that's the first time we've seen, from like what we've seen in season 1 and 2 of Stargirl. We've seen a good amount of like older heroes. We haven't met them, but we've seen photos or heard of them, but we actually got to, see Liberty Bell and all these different characters as well, which I thought, was pretty damn cool. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the final 2 issues have. Obviously that last one's going to be the most interesting, where it's the big culmination, the final crossover thing, but I'm also curious to see what the Flash issue does as well. So yeah, just under 2 weeks until we get to read that. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. You could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various thoughts and everything. If you read the issue, what did you think? If you're just getting it from my description, what did you think of it as well? I'm always curious to read. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.